Vampire: The Masquerade Redemption is a year 2000 PC RPG based on the Vampire: The Masquerade tabletop series and features the world's most tragic man.
Should they banish this darkness, they would banish all that is left of me.
Christoph Romuald, a man of God and a soldier in heaven's cause. During a crusade, he takes a mean bonk and regains consciousness in the convent at Prague. Immediately after waking up, he catches a whiff of some God-fearing clench and just completely abandons his holy mission. My guy just really wants to but oh wait, she's a nun, which means he ain't getting none. There's a big fat fella who tells him off for being a horny bastard.
I command thee, purge such lusts from my heart!
Meanwhile, Christoph and Agnieszka go back and forth confessing their undying love for one another with some of the most beautifully cheesy, poetic dialogue I've ever heard in a video game.
Thou hast stuck me a wound that heals not. My life's blood pours out before me and I cannot stanch it.
My soul fell when first I beheld thee, and now my heart is cleft in twain. My love of God and my love of thee have torn me to ribbons.
Redemption is the kind of game that I don't think can ever be remastered without basically becoming something completely different. It's a complex blend of shitness and geniusness, somewhere in the middle between Twilight and Nosferatu. It's the kind of game where one minute you can be pondering the nature of man, and the next you can be wrestling albino alligators in the sewers of Manhattan.
I'm gonna jam my thumb in its butthole, man. This should really piss it off. Oh, yeah.
The first half of this game takes place solely in 12th century medieval Europe, which is already a terrible place and time to be alive. Chances are you're probably going to die of the pox before your 12th birthday party, but even if you do make it to adulthood, you've still got to somehow manage to not get ripped apart by a werewolf or turn into a gargoyle or some shit. But just wait, because it gets even worse. They still have to pay taxes. The horror. Oi mate, there's these weird goblin looking things in the silver mines and we can't work or make money or do nothing. And people keep mysteriously being stolen from their beds at night. We know you've got a bit of a bum leg or whatever, but would you mind taking a look for us? Yeah, hang on, just let me ask God first. Go for it, mate. Okay, cool. I'll be back. The silver mines serve as an introduction to what it is exactly you'll be doing for the next dozen or so hours, which is mostly clicking around and listening to Christoph scream his beloved catchphrase. It's pretty barren as far as tutorials go. You just run a 20-minute dungeon and get used to pointing and clicking on things. 2000 is still solidly the year of the game manual, an ancient form of manuscript which contains everything you could ever need to know about anything, as long as it was up to date with the final release, which they never were. The source of the little buggers is a Tzimisce vampire who Christoph has no trouble bludgeoning to death as God wills it. He then happens across an amulet of Saint Jude, which he grants as a token to Agnieszka. Whoa, hold on now. That's Saint Jude the Apostle from the Bible. Look at him, this geezer. In the Catholic Church, he is the patron saint of desperate cases and lost causes. Oh no, does that mean what I think it means? Okay, so unless you're at least kind of familiar with the Vampire: The Masquerade setting, then a lot of what I'm about to say is not going to make any fucking sense to you whatsoever. And that's fine, you don't have to understand. You can just sit there and nod, just pretend to care. I'll be here rambling like an insane old man. But without any further ado, here's kind of a brief introduction to the world of darkness. A while ago, this guy called Cain saw a cool rock lying on the ground. So he picked it up, as anyone would, and then proceeded to beat his brother Abel to death. This act pissed off God so much that he cursed Cain to roam forever in an eternity of dankness, essentially creating the first vampire. Cain would sire 3 children, who in turn would sire 13 between them. These 13 kindred of the 3rd generation are known as the antediluvian vampires, and each are the progenitors of one of the 13 clans. Most of these clans during the Dark Ages tend to occupy a grey area of morality, not particularly fond of mortals, but they just kind of tolerate them and let them do their own thing. Since after all, only blood can sustain a child of Cain. You don't want to kill off all the humans because then you'll only have each other to suck on, and that makes for an awful blood economy. There are some clans who you could call evil vampires, such as the aforementioned hheehe, who basically want to rule the world and breed humans as cattle. The other clans, between fighting each other, are almost always at war with the hheehe, in what is known as the jihad, quite literally, the eternal struggle. Back in Prague, Christoph pays Inezka one final visit before ultimately reconsidering and giving up on his love quest.
I am condemned for my lust, but I must not drag thee into the abyss with me. I must flee this holy place and return no more.
My lord, come back!
He casts himself out from the convent. The night is awash with gloom. Prague's cold streets just barely lit under the glow of the pale moon. Directionless, Christoph stumbles into an alleyway where a creature of the night awaits to ensnare him, giving him the sack.
Nay! Oh, nay!
Christoph awakens, feeling nothing but immense hunger, arising not in a house of God, but in a haven of undeath. For his flesh now stirs cold as in any corpse. Rebaptized in the blood of Cain, he is now a very sad boy.
There is no life in me. Even my heart has ceased to beat. My very soul has been stripped from me. There is nothing left for salvation or damnation.
The vampire who had embraced Christoph is an elder of Clan Bruges, who in the Dark Ages are probably the most good-natured and scholarly of all the clans. I mean, they live in a bloody library. Their main shtick is that they used to rule the Carthaginian Empire, a culture where kindred and humans lived together in perfect harmony, and society flourished. But then the Romans came over and fucking killed everyone, and the Prometheans are still salty about it. For the Bruges, it's just been a downward spiral ever since. Christoph unlocks his first bro, Wilhelm, who mentors him along the path of humanity, cures his depression, and teaches him how to suck on old men without getting caught. The two of them set out to do some chores together while Christoph settles into his new role, which naturally means sending vast swaths of Cainites to the great beyond.
To the abyss with thee!
Ow. Oh, hello. So you join me now because I kind of realised that I didn't really talk about the reasons why I think VTM Redemption is actually worth talking about. So this is kind of a late addition to the video. Forgive me for I have a script that I will be kind of listing off about just, you know, the reasons why I think this game's cool as fuck. The audio is going to be terrible, but you know, it usually is, so that shouldn't be an issue really. If you've made it this far, you clearly do not give a fuck about how bad the audio is. Like, it's not going to matter to you. So first reason why VTM Redemption is really cool. The World of Darkness is one of the most interesting fictional settings I think maybe ever. It's built upon this clashing of both real-world history and religious folklore and pure fantasy, and it just makes for such an interesting read. Sometimes when you're reading about the lore for these games, you find something in real-world history that you didn't know about before. Religion plays a really big part in the World of Darkness as well. It is literally just religious fan fiction to an extent, but it's like, it gets a pass from me at least. Reason
Numero
number two,
dos.
The dialogue in this thing is so moving at times. It transcends just the usual necessity to convey information, and it really just adds so much character. Like, there's other games that try and do like the ye olde English thing, but I don't think any of them pull it off as beautifully as Redemption manages. It is easy to meme on, like when everyone's giving a sermon all the time, but it's also very easy to get lost in the language, and I don't think I can really do it justice by just describing it to you, but you know, luckily we have the wonders of Sony Vegas, and I can just pop a clip in wherever I please.
Good my lord, why dost thou look so strangely upon me?
My mind is filled with thoughts of such base villainy. My hunger for thee is stronger now than when my heart did pump its own warm blood.
I know not what misfortune weighs so heavily upon thy soul, or has driven the rosy warmth from thy cheek, but the heavenly powers can banish all such darkness.
Should they banish this darkness, they would banish all that is left of me.
The new version of Sony Vegas is absolute rubbish, by the way. It's so bad. The third reason why this game is epic is because of Christoph's existential crisis. You know, you can see how for a man in like the pious, heroic archetype like Christoph's in, how literally being stripped of your very being might be a lot to deal with, but all he wants is to live by God and be with his trad wife, but alas, he is cursed to prey upon the living. He's kind of somewhere between a hero and an anti-hero, you know, he's a bit of a semi-hero. During his service to the Teutonic orders of Christianity, he must have taken so many lives. Like, he's probably fucking killed kids, dude. It isn't until he sees his existence from a different perspective, he meets people like Wilhelm, like the Jewish Kabbalist, and he kind of considers the other side of the coin. Like, the whole reason he's in this pickle to begin with is because he let his lust come before his service to God, you know? Like, like someone who's actually like good at media analysis could probably give you a better breakdown of his character. I'm just here for the dopamine rush whenever he opens his mouth. Has a fun drinking game for you. Take a shot every time Christoph talks about how damned his soul is. And the fourth and final reason why VTM Redemption is cool as fuck is because vampires are sexy. Alright. I'm not a Christian, by the way, if you couldn't tell. God is just undeniably real in the vampire universe. He has his own wiki page and everything. So hopefully I've convinced you that Redemption is not a huge crock of shite. It is a beautiful work of art. If so, that is brilliant, because now we're going to be talking about what a huge crock of shite this thing is, man. The combat in Redemption is on the same level of entertainment as having your testicles crushed in a hydraulic press.
I hate this fucking game so much, man.
You know how most party-based games will let you pause time so you can strategize and manage your squad or whatnot? Well, Redemption's combat is kind of like real time with pause, except you're not allowed to pause. Okay, that's not true, because they did add a pause button, but you'd never know that unless I told you which key it's mapped to. And I'm not going to tell you where it is, because it's funnier if you find out yourself. Stat points and disciplines can be purchased using XP, fairly standard RPG stuff, but what any of these stats actually do is a complete mystery at first. If you're upgrading a warrior, you might boost strength on a whim, because that makes sense, right? Wrong. Because you've been pumping strength and neglecting dexterity this whole time, you're now stuck getting absolutely, utterly fucking rumbled. In almost every fight, dice rolls are handling the vast majority of the work. Really, it's just up to you to keep an eye on your blood supply and cast disciplines to get the edge in combat. Unfortunately, you end up burning through blood faster than Taylor Swift burns through the ozone. I mean, naturally you can just draw blood at any time by sinking your teeth into a warm neck, but your victims always seem to flee further beyond reach, and you can never quite catch up to them before the AI in your party just goes in for a mercy kill, leaving you with an unholy thirst and with no choice but to slurp down all the rats you've been stashing in your pockets. So managing blood makes up half of this game's challenge. The other half is just making sure no one in your party is having a dementia episode. Don't even think about giving them a ranged weapon, they don't know how to use them. If you leave your party in offensive mode by accident, when you get back into town, they'll just start attacking random old ladies on the street. This is bad because, well, you shouldn't just be beating up old people, but it's bad because if an innocent dies, their humanity score is permanently damaged, and this causes them to frenzy more often. On top of all of that, their disembodied heads are forever gazing at you through the screen. And when they die, they turn into soy jacks. Like I said about the mines, this game starts off deceptively easy. It gives you a good few hours to get cozy and wrapped up in a nice protective blanket before going full mask off and subjecting you to the full extent of its misery. This lovely ethereal chap, for example, who you can't even dent unless you use Wilhelm's big meaty claws in combination with abusing his AI. Even then, I spent at least 15 minutes kiting this dude around because he can potentially end you in like 2 or 3 hits. Don't get me wrong, this is still a great game. The setting, the characters, aesthetic, music, I love them all to death. The gameplay itself just makes me want to, like, deep throat a shotgun. It's just not good.
Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
So, it's probably a good time to mention then that I was using a lot of cheats to get through this thing. I know, like, I suck at video games, right? Like, obviously. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, big whoop, what do you want to do? Fucking fight about it? That's not to say I was using cheats, like, 24/7. Like, towards the start of 1999, the game actually started feeling kind of balanced for a change. So I turned them off. Oh yeah, so the 20th century is a thing in this game, and this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to make some kind of transition so we can talk about it.
Welcome to the new world, Squire. Hope you like what we done with the place.
Thou art a common cutpurse.
What? What's this about a purse? Shut up and give me your money.
I shall give thee my blade instead.
Yeah! Are you crazy?
This game is hysterical. Okay, so quick catch up because I may have skipped over pretty much all of the plot at this point. So Chris is a vampire now. Yeah, we've talked about that. We know that. Anezka gets kidnapped by the baddies. Chris ends up going to Vienna. It's this whole thing. Plot happens. Well, nothing really happens, but he returns to Prague, finds Anezka, tries to save her, doesn't go too well. The fucking ceiling collapses on him, killing him, so he just goes into torpor for the next 800 years or so. And yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it. All up to speed now? Yeah, okay, good. Back to the video. Christoph guns his way through a society of vampire hunters and ventures forth into the streets of 20th century London.
I've just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole!
Entering the modern nights, this game basically just becomes a comedy. You have this meat-headed punk sidekick named Pink, who's basically Christoph's polar opposite. Chris is all about chivalry and piety, whereas Pink just wants to smash some heads and have a bloody good time doing it.
Okay, no killing when I feed Christ.
This is what the Bruiser of the modern knights have become, a far cry from the philosophers of old Carthage. So this is awesome, right? You have this medieval time-traveling vampire in a modern setting. He's just woken up, he knows absolutely nothing about the world that he's just found himself in. You can do absolutely anything with this premise. So obviously it's time to take a trip to ancient Egypt, right? Like, you'd think the guns in the game would at least be kind of good, but no. Pistols? Useless. A shotgun? Rubbish. A flamethrower? Flamethrow it in the bin, mate. All my homies use pointy sticks. From what I can gather, Redemption had a pretty rough production, and honestly, yeah, it kind of feels like a whole section of the modern knights is just missing. But hey, they have you fight Italian mobster vampires in a crack warehouse later on, so the premise didn't completely go to waste.
After such horrors as I have endured, after losing so much, I awake to find I have finally lost all. I have lost her.
You end up hijacking a shipment of cursed earth and make your way to New York so you can stop the big bad and get the girl.
Perhaps this New York lies within Ireland.
No! Ever since the famine, Ireland lies within New York!
The main baddie is a 4th generation Semitsi Methuselah vampire named Vukadlak. There's this prophecy called Gehenna, which is when all the antediluvians wake up for a midnight snack and just start devouring everything. So he wants to eat them before they eat him, and then just become the biggest, baddest vampire going. The fact I'm only just now mentioning him, like right at the end of the video, should tell you how much screen time he has. So, in conclusion, Redemption is just the gem. It's just a classic, you know. Like, yeah, it's from a time when games were still a bit hit or miss, but it is one of like the OG goth games. If you have the same terrible taste as I do, then you'll probably get a kick out of it, you know. If you do feel like trying this thing out, just be aware that it will require some effort to get running on a modern computer. I'll leave a guide or something. I'll see if I can find a Steam guide. I'll put it in the description. So, yeah. Smell you later.